everybody, this is Heather with Stampin' Up! Coming out of Spokane, Washington. I'm an independent demonstrator and I'm on just a minute or two early tonight. Facebook was being kind of strange, or maybe it was my phone, I don't know. But there was strangeness. So I wanted to log on a couple minutes early just to make sure I got on here and people were able to find me and all that kind of thing. So give me a minute, I'm going to shut my door and then we can get going. Okay, I am back and I am ready. So, let's give it a couple minutes for people to get on here. It looks like we've got 3 of you on right now. Get this up so I can see all the comments. Turn off my volume. Hey Robin, nice to see you tonight. Let's see. Anybody else who's here? Go ahead and say hi. Let me know where you're from. Let me know if this is your first time joining us tonight. I love it when we have new people. That's always fun. Tonight, I've got some great projects in store. They take a little longer, so I don't want to kill a bunch of time at the beginning because I think we'll need it as we go. But I think you'll be pleased with the projects that I've got in store for you. So let's go ahead and we'll get the camera turned around and get started. And see how everything goes, okay? Hang on just a sec. Okay, just try to get everything straight now. Nope, that's pretty darn crooked. Okay, there we go. I think we're good now. So, that is so weird, Robin. Hey, Eric. Hey, Talina. You've got me on your big screen again, don't you? It was weird. I turned on my camera and it would only show with the front-facing camera. But if I use that one, then anything I show you that's written is backwards. And so I like to use the regular camera. And for some reason, it just wasn't even giving me that option. If I went into like regular picture taking camera, it did let me switch, but in video it wouldn't. It was just kind of strange. So, but all of a sudden it changed its mind. It let me do what I wanted to do. And here we are. Okay, so before we get going, I want to remind everybody, you've got about a week left to sign up for the November Gifts Galore Paper Pumpkin Kit. You guys, this is so adorable, and if you are not signed up to get it, then you definitely want to sign up because it's little gift boxes that you can put treats in. It comes with food-safe treat bags, and then these cute little gift boxes. There's going to be 3 styles. We know that one is a snowman. I don't believe we've heard definitively who or what the other 2 are, but it's definitely something you're going to want to get. And then remember, once I get mine, I will go live on a Saturday with some alternate ideas of things you can do with the kit. So that's something you'll want to watch for. Hey, Kathy. Hey, Jennifer. Glad you guys could make it. I don't know if this applies to anybody that's watching tonight, but in case any of you guys are in the Spokane area, I do have my Christmas crafting event coming up this weekend, and I have a couple more spots available. So if you are still interested in attending, but missed the cutoff for registration, then go ahead and contact me, and we'll see what we can do to get you in, okay? All right, so with that in store, or that all being said, let's go ahead and get started. Okay, so the first card we're going to make tonight is this one using our Whimsical Wishes. I think that's what the paper pack is called. Whimsical Wishes Designer Series paper. Get it out, Heather. And this one, let me see. I think I did use a different stamp set and I used a different die set. The Whimsical Wishes paper goes with our Whimsical Trees collection. There's paper, there's there's paper, there's stamps, there's dies, there's some embellishments. It's a great collection if you're looking for something for the holidays, especially if you like to use non-traditional colors, which I love non-traditional Christmas colors. So tonight I'm using the Heartfelt Wishes stamp set. I love this stamp set. I love the font and the flow of it, and it's just a really pretty set. And then I'm using some one of the labels, this long one right here, from my seasonal labels dies. So let's go ahead and get started. So the first thing I've got is a half of a sheet of Blushing Bride cardstock, cut the length direction. So it's 4 1/4 by 4 1/4 by 11. And then I've scored it right at the midway mark at 5 1/2. So we'll fold that and then get a nice sharp crease with the bone folder. Set that aside for a moment. Should put it right here. Okay, what we have is an envelope, and isn't this paper just gorgeous, you guys? I love the iridescent sparkle to it. And I love that it's pink, but that kind of goes without saying. So let's do our envelope first, so it's got some time to dry while we're making the card. Get all the little glue boogers out. Oh, Talina says I have an Emmy coming soon. Yay! Does that mean I get a fancy ball gown too? Because I'll wear it. I don't know where I'll wear it, but if I have to wear it to the grocery store, I will. You know, my husband and I, we dated back in high school, and we went to different schools, and we went to several proms together. And our very first prom that we went to, I had this big, huge foofy dress that was popular, you know, in the early 90s. And, you know, it had the crinoline underneath, and it was huge. And I still remember Bill drove his mother's Lincoln Continental, and you know how big those are, right? This big, huge Lincoln Continental. And my dress was so huge, it went up onto the dashboard. And I mean, it took up the whole front seat practically. It was kind of funny. Okay, so got that glued on. Let's trim the edges. Yes, I should have a ball gown, Talina. I really should. For all occasions. For when I'm not wearing my overalls. Oh, also, you guys, I'm really excited. I ordered more overalls the other day. They're going to be here Friday. I know, you guys are probably so excited about that. But I am. Okay, so we've got our envelope done and ready. We'll set it aside so it can dry. Then I have a piece of white, or just our regular vellum cardstock. And our cardstock is really, I mean, our vellum is really great, guys. If you haven't used it, a lot of times if you go to a craft store or a place like that, then you get kind of a real flimsy one. And this, it's not as heavy duty as our regular cardstock, but it's certainly a lot heavier, and it's really nice to work with. What color, Robin? Well, we went to several proms, so let's see. The first one we went to, because my high school, you could go to the prom in any grade level of high school, 9th through 12. And then his was junior and senior year. And so I had one that was black and white. I had one that was pink. I had one that was like a robin's egg blue. Yeah, because we broke up before the senior proms. So those are the different colors I had. But the one that like filled up the entire seat of the car was the robin's egg blue one. Okay, then what I did is I've got 3 strips of just the basic white cardstock. And these are 3/4 of an inch. Actually, they're 7/8 of an inch by 4 1/8 of an inch. So they're just going to be slightly bigger than the 3 strips that I cut with the Designer Series paper because they're all 3/4 of an inch by 4. And the nice thing is this didn't take up a whole lot of the DSP that I had because it literally was one strip that was 3/4 of an inch wide and then cut into thirds. So you could get a lot of use out, or a lot of these cards out of your Designer Series paper. Then I also have one of our Snowflake Embellishments, and I just love these. I think they're so pretty. I don't know if you can see the real opalescent sheen to them. You know, you kind of can. But these are really, and they're very versatile because you can use them in quite a few different ways and projects. Then I also took our silver foil and I die cut this little tag, and then I also cut it in white. So let's get started on building this. So the first thing I did is I used my vellum like a regular sheet of cardstock, and I just started building on it. And the reason for that is because you want to be careful where you put your adhesives with vellum because they show through vellum, so it's a little tricky sometimes. So by putting everything on the front first, then what I could do is flip it over and just put adhesive where I had my strips on the front, and it hides them. So let's go ahead and get started by sticking down, where's my adhesive? Right here. I'm going to stick down the pink onto the white. There's just a tiny little margin here. And I've got 3 of them. Oh, get out of the way. Well, that was good. Got my adhesive on my vellum, which I did not intend to do. Okay, now put this one on the white. So tonight for dinner, I find on Wednesdays I just don't have time to eat dinner before I do my lives. And we go to bed really early around here, so I don't have a lot of time to eat after the lives, and it takes me forever to eat. So I thought, okay, what I'll do is I'll order DoorDash and request to have it delivered about 7:30, because then I know I'll be done here, and that'll still give me enough time to eat before we go to bed. And got it all ordered, and then realized I forgot to tell it to deliver it later. So it's going to sit here and get cold. Which, I mean, my food, because I take so long to eat, typically gets cold anyway. But I was like, really? Oh well. Okay. Now I'm going to stick these onto my card. But I wanted to have these up a little bit, raised up. So I have... Where did it go? I have one of the foam adhesive sheets, and especially for pieces like this, I really like the foam adhesive sheets. So what I'm going to do is I want to make sure they're not going to be too long. So I'm going to trim some off this end. And then I'm just going to cut 3 strips. I use dimensionals a lot too, but these strips are really nice to have on hand when you want a really structured lift like this, because it lifts it all the way, not just, in dots. So let's get these all on here. Okay. And the first thing I do, just because it makes it easier for me to figure out where I want to space things, is I put the middle one on first. So I just kind of eyeballed it, and it looks like that's pretty good. These adhesive strips, once you press them down, they kind of want to stay where you put them. So what I try to do is lay it on there so it's not stuck too hard to the paper, because then if I need to lift it up to reposition it, I can do so a little bit more easily. Okay, is that crooked? That's gonna bug me if it's crooked. It's crooked. And it does peel off the vellum pretty easily too. Oh, now I've got it crooked the other direction. Oh dear, it's gonna be a long night, you guys. Okay, I'm gonna leave it there, I promise. Now I just want to line up the other two. And I just want them to basically be evenly spaced between one another, and then also evenly spaced as far as top to bottom. So, okay, perfect. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to get out my silicone mat and my little snowflake here. Now, depending on what you're doing with your snowflake, you could just put some glue right there in the middle. I like, because these are so fine, these little pieces of the snowflake, I like to glue them down as well, just so they don't get caught on everything. And I'm going to show you how I do that. Let's see here. Get it out of the... Okay, and I've seen people who, they like save this part and then they use it for small punches or whatever, and I've seen some really pretty like little hearts or stars or whatever with this stuff. So that's an idea for you. Okay, so I have it upside down on my silicone mat. The silicone mat is great for any kind of adhesive because adhesive doesn't really stick to it. For example, you can see I'm just putting the glue right there directly on the mat. And what'll happen is once it dries, I can just rub it with my thumb or whatever, and it will peel right off. Okay, so now I'm going to take a sponge dauber, get a little bit of glue, and I'm just going to kind of go over it like this. You don't have to worry about making sure that you get every single spot on there. But if you just go over the whole thing like this, then you get enough spots that you can count on it laying down for you. Then I'm going to take it, and I kind of wanted it off center a little bit. So I put mine like this. Get out of the way, finger. And I just lined it up right here in between these two. And push it down. There you go. So I'm going to move my mat out of the way. And then I'm going to take my little label here, and I'm going to use the Blushing Bride ink. And I'm going to open it up, maybe. And the stamp I'm using is Happy Holidays, Happiest Holidays. I do like to stamp on my, why is the word not coming to me? My piercing mat just gives a little extra cushion, which you don't need so much with the red rubber stamps, but with the photopolymer ones, you kind of need that extra cushion, so I like to use it. I'm going to line it up here. The stamp is a little bigger than my cardstock, so it goes off the edges, and that doesn't bother me. Oh, that's a good idea, Talina, with the grid paper. Talina said she puts grid paper down to line things up so that she can get them straight, because if she thinks about it too hard, then that doesn't help. And I totally get that, because I think just about anything you think too hard and then you end up messing it up for yourself. Okay, so now I'm going to take this tag, and I want it to show a little bit behind this white one, but as you can see, they're the exact same size. So what I do is I'm just going to cut it in half lengthwise. Maybe. Show it who's boss, Heather. Okay, then put a little bit of adhesive on the back of this. went a little over the edge, not a big deal. When you do that, you can just, if you're using Seal or Seal Plus, you can just fold it back over, back out of the way again. Now what I'm going to do, yes, Robin, Heather is the boss. Will you please call my husband and let him know that? Now what I'm going to do is just line it up on here. And these labels, let's see if I can get to see it, if you can see it on the screen. They have like a little bit of an embossed edge around them. Yeah, you can kind of see that. And so I like to line it up with that embossed edge if I just want a little bit. And it helps guide me so that I have it even on, you know, from one end to the other as well. Okay. So there's one side. Now I'm going to put down the other side. Okay. And there we go. So I want to pop this up with some dimensionals as well. So what I'm going to do is, you know, this is some dimensionals, a pack of dimensionals that came with one of my kits, probably a paper pumpkin or something. And I want to remind you that this outer edge still works as a dimensional. So be sure to use that. Don't just throw that away. There we go. And then I'm just going to peel that right off. I think I'm going to put a little bit more on there because I'm weird about that, and you know how it is, I like to overdo everything. So cracks me up when I stick to it myself and then I can't get it undone. It's like, it reminds me of, oh my gosh, why can't I think of what, this Three Stooges. Okay, there's only one of me. Okay, so now I'm going to stick this on and I'm going to line it up so it's centered left to right, and I just wanted it right over that center part of the snowflake. I almost called it a starfish. What is wrong with me tonight? Okay, let's see. That is not lined up. I wonder if I did it on my regular table instead of doing it on something white, it might be easier to see my edges. Okay, there we go. Now, as I was saying before, because I've got these strips right here on the back, I can put my adhesive right here to stick it down to my card, and it's not going to show. So, just put a little bit of adhesive on there. And I'm going to take my card. And this one I have, I've done it so that the fold is at the top and it opens this way. I just realized I didn't do anything to decorate the inside of this one. I can do that later. What I would do, just to let you know, to give you some ideas, I would take a piece of white or basic white cardstock. I would cut it 4 by 5 1/4. And then just lay it on the inside here. And then I would get like an 1/8 of an inch or 1/4 of an inch of matching designer series paper and make a strip that I would just put along the bottom. It would be just nice and simple. So that is our card, our first card. What do you guys think? Hey, Jason, thanks for joining us tonight. Good to see you. Yes, it's very much like when you were calling snowflakes stars, but at least you were calling them something else that's in the sky. I'm calling them starfish. I do know the difference, I promise. Okay. Now let's get going to our second card. Now this one I'm really excited about. My friend Tammy made something like this in one of her videos a week or so ago, and I loved it, and I told her I was going to case it. If you don't know what casing is copying and selectively editing. It's basically stealing someone else's idea. And so I told her I was gonna case it. I did make a few changes to the way I did mine, so it's a little bit different. But I also made an envelope for it because I wanted you to see that it is card size, so it will still fit in a regular envelope. But what this is it is a card which you could open up and put a little message inside if you wanted to, or they can just leave it like this. This part pops up and it makes a little desk calendar. I bought these calendars from a company called, let's see, Tailored Expressions, and they were really inexpensive. I got 10 for $3.50. So really good deal on these. And in fact, this is one of the projects they're going to be making at my workshop this weekend. So let's get started here, and I'm going to show you how to do this. First part is to take a half of a sheet of Misty Moonlight cardstock, and I cut it just like I would cut a normal card. It's 5.5 by 8.5, and then I scored it in the middle at 4.25, so you can see if it's folded this way, it would be like a regular card. Then what I did is I cut it an inch away from each edge with an inch. No, it was 1 1/8 inches from each edge to make these little flaps. Then I took this flap right here, the big one in the middle, and I scored it about halfway. And you can eyeball what's halfway. It doesn't have to be exact. If you are like me and it has to be exact because that matters to you, then the measurement here is 2 1/8. But like I said, you know, I showed you how it folds up to make the calendar. And so really, it doesn't matter too much where that fold is. Thanks, Jason. Jason says that he likes this version as well. He also saw Tammy's. So, okay, now what we're going to do is I folded this, and let's go ahead and crease it with the bone folder. And then I've got a whole bunch of pieces here that I've got to be careful because some of them are super duper tiny. I've got my envelope. Let's do the envelope really quick. Okay, a little glue around the edge. Some people don't like to do their envelopes. I like to do mine just because it's kind of fun. You know, when you get something in the mail that's decorated like this, you know it's going to be something fun inside because, you know, bill collectors don't send you mail in cute envelopes. I mean, you know, maybe people would be better about paying their bills if they did. Just saying. I also like to send stuff in our clear envelopes because I figure I put enough time into making the card. I want the whole wide world to see it. Okay, did I get it far enough on the edge there? It's a little bit over. Oh, thanks, Eric. Eric says that he loves that I do multiple projects. I kind of like that too. In the videos that I watch, I like it when they do more than one. Okay, so now I'm going to just trim off the edge here. You know the drill. I've got fumbly hands tonight. I don't know what's going on, calling snowflakes starfishes and my fumbly hands. Okay, so the envelope's done. Set it aside to let it dry a little bit. Now, for the inside piece, I've got a piece of basic white, and then I have a really thin little strip. Now, what I chose to do, I liked the idea of the stripes going horizontal instead of vertical. So on my little side flaps, they are going to be horizontal. But for this part, I did it this way, where they would be vertical if they were bigger, just because I liked it having multiple colors on it. And it was so thin, I knew that I couldn't get that with going the other direction. Okay. Getting a little bit of glue on there. Now I'm going to stick this down. And I like to leave just a little bit of a white edge. I said I like to leave a little bit of a white edge. Remember who's boss here. Okay, so I've stuck that little baby down and trim off the edges. I like to cut, when I'm doing little pieces like this, little edges, I do like to cut them a little bit too long because you can always trim that off, and I would rather trim off little pieces than not have it quite long enough because that bugs me. So let's go ahead and glue this to the inside of our card now. Okay. Yeah, I'm with you, Talina. I couldn't do it on the fly either. I mean, you guys see how discombobulated I am when I have already rehearsed the card and, you know, made one and done that. Can you imagine? I would be out of control if I tried to do it on the fly. Okay, now I have a small piece of basic white, and you know, I forgot the measurement on that, so let me get out my ruler. I almost said get out my calendar. See, I can't talk tonight, you guys. Okay, so it's 1.5 by 3 inches, and oh, I forgot a piece, so I'll have to cut a piece real quick. I've got my 2 strips that are 1 inch by 4 inches. They're going to go on the sides. Then I need to get out my silicone mat here. Now I need to get another piece of the Misty Moonlight that's the same size as this flap, which is 3 inches by 4.25. And I forgot to cut that, so let me get that really quick. Talk amongst yourselves. Okay, I'm back. Okay, so now let's go ahead and start by gluing down these little side pieces, because then that way we don't have extra pieces just floating around for me to lose. All right, good night, Jason. Thanks for joining us. Okay, so I'm just gluing these pieces down now. Now, one thing I have seen some people do with this kind of style is they just go ahead and glue these flaps down because it's not like you're going to be able to write a little message in that tiny little section. But I left them unattached because I wanted people to have the option if they wanted to write something inside, they could. Okay, now what I'm going to do is I'm going to put the calendar on here last, just because I didn't want it in the way while I'm trying to put on the other pieces. But to give you an idea of what we're doing here, the calendar is going to go right here. Oh, I think I wanted this to be a little bit bigger, didn't I? Yes. Okay, bear with me. Got to cut this again. Okay, sorry. Sorry, I just had that too narrow and I wanted it to be the same size as this flap piece. So what it's going to look like is the calendar is going to go right there, which like I said, we're going to put that on last. And then I'm going to put that right there and decorate that up. So just so you have an idea of what we're looking at, first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take my Mossy Meadow ink and I'm going to stamp my message inside. And what I used on here is, this is our best year stamp set, and it's full of great sentiments and some fun fonts. And I believe this might be the only Happy Father's Day. I don't remember for sure. There might be another one, but I love them. I love the fonts. So what we're going to use is Wishing You Your Best Year Yet. I thought that went well with a calendar. Especially, you know, if someone's going to put it on their desk and they're going to have it year round, you want a sentiment that is going to last for the year. So, got that now. Cleaned off my stamp. Now what I did is I used the Floral Squares dies and I cut out this little flower here. And you can see how it cuts out the center of the flowers. I'll show you what I'm talking about. See how there's a hole in the center of the flowers? What I did is I kept the little circles, the little holes that got punched out, and I hope I don't lose them all. And then I also used the stockings dies that go with our Sweet Stockings stamp set, I think. I think that's what the bundle's called, Sweet Stockings. And I cut this little leaf right here. So let's see here. And I do have a couple of extra. Oh, good. I have all my little dots. I have a couple extras here. Now, the tricky part is to get those little centers to stay. So what I did, one of them, well, the two pink ones are going to end up being up on dimensionals. So what I did is I flipped them over on their back. I should move this out of the way. I should use my silicone mat. Okay, so I flipped them upside down. Move my leaves out of the way. I see this one has a little piece that didn't pop out. Okay, so then I took my dimensionals, and the dimensionals fit perfectly on these, the regular size ones. You could use the mini dimensionals if you wanted. These fit just right. And I put them right there in the center because they're going to lift up my flowers like I want them to. I just laid this down in the glue that I'd used before. Okay, now it's nice and sticky in the center there because of the dimensional. So what I did is I took my Take Your Pick tool, and this tool is absolutely a must-have. And I got one of the little blue dots that came out, or centers that came out of the blue flower, and I stuck it right there on top of my dimensional. So that holds it in place. Get the other blue one here. Okay, so now I have my two pink ones. I think I'm going to put the pink center in the green flower, and then I'll put the green center in the pink flower. Now for these ones, I don't have that dimensional there. So what I'm going to do is take a glue dot . Hey Kim, welcome. I just saw you there. And I am setting my glue dot right over that opening so that it creates the same effect as I had with the dimensional where the glue comes through the front. And I'm going to take that little pink. Oh, you come back here. I'm the boss. Okay. You can run, but you can't hide. I keep telling my husband that too. I think he's hiding in the basement right now. Okay, so I've got that one done. For now, I'm just going to leave it right there because it is sticky. I'm going to take another dimensional, put it on the blue one. My eyes are old, and I'm finding I have to pull things closer to my face to see them. And that's very frustrating. I'm not liking the whole getting older thing. Well, I don't mind getting older. I mind getting feebler. Okay. Okay, get in there. Come on, buddy. There we go. Okay, so now I have my flowers done. I'm going to go ahead and mount this piece onto here. And the reason I'm going to do that first is because then as I lay my flowers down, they can go off the edge a little bit, but I can see where they're going to make sure they're where I want them. So let's put a little bit of adhesive down. And I'm just lining it up. I'm trying to get it so that the margins are about the same. See, I laid this down where I had glue on my silicone mat and got it on my thumb that I then put on my piece of paper. But I think we'll be able to cover that up with the flowers anyway, so I'm not too worried about it. So now I'm going to take a green one, and I might put another dimensional on just because I got it kind of, I was fumbling with it with my fingers, and that makes it so it's not quite as sticky. So got one there. Let's put the other one on. And you really only need one. You could put a couple on there if you wanted to cover the different areas, but you really do only need one. So now we'll put one of our pink ones with the dimensional on. And then I've got the little leaves that I cut out of the Sweet Stockings dies, or cut out with the Sweet Stockings dies. I'm going to put a little glue dot on here. And I'm just kind of sticking it up under that other one a little bit. You want to be careful if you end up lifting it up because you don't want to lose your center of your flower there. Now get this other one on. And it's okay if the glue dot isn't completely hidden because of the fact that it's going under these little flowers anyway, so it's not like you really see them. I might have to do a little doctoring. That one's a little longer than I would like it to be. And I think I did that when I made the original one too. I just cut it down a little bit because I didn't like how long it was. Look at me being a florist. Okay. There. I don't like how long that, oh good, that piece I was going to cut just tore off, so. Let's see here. Okay. Yeah, I think I like that better, just a little bit shorter. So, got that part there. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and glue down my little calendar. Take off the, oh, I just tore off January too. Okay, so what I'm going to do is go ahead and glue this down, just some put some seal on the back. And I will just tell somebody to, whoever I give this to, I'll just tell them to pretend the year starts in February. Okay, so now we have that part. We're going to take the card, and we're only going to put adhesive on this bottom part underneath our scored line, which I forgot to crease. There we go. So I'm taking my other pink flower that has a dimensional. Actually, not yet, not yet. Let's glue this down first. Okay. And I'm just going to line this up so that it is directly over. Make sure you guys can see that. Directly over the other piece. Because remember, it's the same size as this little piece here. Okay. Now what I did is I set it to figure out where I liked the little stand to go. And I tried to actually do it so it was further back like this, so you could write a message in there and the flower wasn't right smack dab in the middle. It just didn't want to line up quite right when I did that. So now what I'm doing is I'm taking the flower, I just put it there. And the flower, because it's on a dimensional, is what keeps this piece from falling forward. So there you have it, guys. Cute little calendar / card if you want it to be a card, or if you just want it to be the calendar. There you go. Whoop. Tried to, there, we can kind of hold it this way so you can see it from the front. Hi, Christy. Thanks for joining us. Okay, so I'm going to set this piece aside. Remember, because it's done like a regular card, it fits in a regular card envelope. And if you have not used the Stampin' Up! Envelopes, I really encourage you to buy a pack, give them a try. As far as envelopes go, they're not that expensive. They are a little more expensive than like the cheap ones that I used to buy off of Amazon. But that's the key word there. They were cheap. They worked as envelopes. No complaints there. But these are just a little bit heavier. They're a smoother surface. So if you wanted to stamp on them, you could. And they're just a little bit higher quality. So of course they're going to be a little more expensive, but I want to say it's like $6 for 40 of them. Something like that, or 50. Okay, now on to our final project. I should move some of this stuff out of my way. Okay, so the final one I've got for you, I'm kind of excited about this one. I started playing with it last night, and I just really liked how it turned out. And this one is more of a fall Thanksgiving card. And there's our inside. So we're going to do this, and we're going to do a little bit of watercoloring too, which is why I wanted to allow a little bit of extra time tonight for that part. So what I've got here for the components of it, got a half of a sheet of our crumb cake cardstock. I really like our crumb cake because it's a nice neutral color. It's so warm for the fall, but you can still use it with other seasons as well. But I really, really like it for fall. And get the crease there. Set the card out of the way. Then I'm also using some of our I think this is baker's twine. I ran out of the linen thread, which I really like our linen thread, but I've got some of our crumb cake colored baker's twine. I have 2 pieces of it that are about 8 inches long. And then I have a piece here that's probably looks like it's about 15 inches of our, oh, hang on, let me see what it's called. Diamond weave ribbon, I think is what it is. Yes, it's the diamond weaved ribbon. And I love that it has kind of a vintagey feel to it, and it's just warm and inviting. Next, I've got a piece of, this is just a scrap piece that I had of crumb cake, and a scrap piece of basic white. and a scrap piece of soft succulent. Then I also have my envelope with a strip for the flap, which we'll do in just a minute. I have Calypso coral. This piece is 4 by 5 1/4. And then to nest on that, I have a piece of our designer series paper from our autumn harvest paper. I'm trying to remember what it's, something harvest. Okay, so anyway, I love this designer series paper. Really, it's fun. It's got lots of different patterns, and I really like it. So this piece here is just 3 7/8 by 5 1/8, so that you just get that small 1/16 of an inch border around there. I have a little strip of Calypso coral and a little strip that matches the designer series paper that we're going to use this on the inside of our card. And I forgot to cut a piece for the inside of our card. We'll see how we're doing for time, and maybe I'll go cut a piece, or I'll just, have you use your imagination. And then we have our cork paper. If you have not used the cork paper yet, I can't say enough cool things about it. And it's only going to be in our catalog through December, because it's in our July through December mini catalog. So you want to get it before it retires. And so I've got a little strip here. And then I also have a wider piece that's about 1.5 inches wide. So let's go ahead and get started. Do our envelope, get it set off to the side so that it can dry. And I, by the way, for the envelope on this one, I used a very vanilla envelope instead of our basic white, just because it is a little warmer to go with the crumb cake cardstock. Okay. Cut around that edge there. I feel like I'll soon reach a point I could do this in my sleep. Not that I should probably be trusted with a pair of scissors in my sleep. I probably shouldn't be trusted with them when I'm awake. Okay. So we got our envelope done. We'll set it aside. Now what we're going to do is work on the front of our card. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to do the watercolor part of it. And the reason for that is because I want to give the paper just a little bit of time to dry. Now to stamp the image itself, and this is the image we're going to use, the little 3 pumpkins from the Pretty Pumpkins. Where is it? Here it is. From the Pretty Pumpkins stamps. And this is another really pretty set that you can do a lot of things with. I am going to stamp that, excuse me, using Stays-On ink. The reason for that is Stays-On ink is designed to be used with water products. So like when you are watercoloring and things like that, you want to use Stays-On. If you use the Memento ink, it will smudge. It'll bleed. So I've got the Saddle Brown Stays-On. And I'm just going to stamp it on here. And when you use the Stays-On, you don't want to let your stamp sit too long before you wash it off. I mean, if it sits for a little bit, you're fine. But if it sits too long, it will stain your stamp. Which isn't a huge deal when your stamps are stained. Doesn't mean that they'll transfer onto future images or anything. But some people are kind of particular about that. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take, these are our blender brushes, and they're filled with water. The set comes with 3, comes with a fine tip like this, it comes with a little bit wider tip, and then it comes with a broad tip one that's good for like backgrounds and such. Now, then what I'm going to do is I'm going to take just one of our little block. You could use any block you want. I just grabbed one of the little ones. And the colors I'm going to use here, I'm going to use the Soft Succulent, Bumblebee, and Calypso Coral. So the first thing I'm going to do is, okay, this is nice and wet. I'm going to take the ink pad. I want to do a coat of the Bumblebee for the undercoat, I guess you could say, of my pumpkins, which, let me find my sample one here so you can see. See how it has kind of the yellow, a little bit of yellow and a little bit of orange? So I did that by putting yellow on first. So I'm just going to go like that with my block. It gets the ink on my block. And then, make sure I've got, you just squeeze this and water comes out to your brush if you've never used them before. And then I do want to kind of brush a little bit off first, just because I didn't want a super dark blob there. One thing I really like about watercoloring is it's not a really precise painting, so you don't have to be super exact. If you go outside of the lines a little bit, it's not a big deal. Okay, and I know that's not super pretty like that, but remember, we're going to go over it with the Calypso Coral also. This is just a little bit of an undertone. Looks like I may need a little more ink though. Doo-dee-doo. I am not a watercolor artist by any stretch of the imagination, but I really had fun last night when I was playing with these and trying to figure out what I wanted to do with them exactly. Okay, so now I've got my little yellow undertones. All you have to do to clean off your brush is get a little bit more water out and then just scribble on scratch paper until it's clear. Easy peasy. And then to clean my block, I just use my Simply Chamois and clean it off just like I do with my stamps. Okay, next what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the orange, or the Calypso Coral. Get my brush nice and wet, get my stamp, or my block inked up. Now the other thing you want to know is when you watercolor something, it actually starts out a lot darker than it's going to be when you're finished. So as it soaks into the paper, it gets a little lighter. So just going over this a little bit with my orange, or my Calypso Coral. Okay. So you can see what I'm doing is I'm kind of going over the lines because that's when my ink is the darkest. And so I want to have that as a little bit of shaded, a little darker. And then I'm just, as the color lightens up a little, I'm filling in the rest of the space. Okay. I might need to get a little more ink here. I'm trying to not have to, but Okay, so now I'm just going to clean off my brush there. Get the Calypso coral off. Clean my block again. Now we're going to use the soft succulent to do the stems and the little leaves on there. Guess it helps if you open the ink pad. Now because I want my stems to be a little darker, I'm going to go ahead and do those first. Okay, now I want to start doing my leaves. And what I did with my leaves is I made them a little bit lighter in general as I put a big dark glob on there. And as you can see, I'm kind of trying to stay in the lines, but it's not a big problem that I'm not. Now, if you wanted to add a little more tone to it, a little more color, you could. What I would recommend is let it dry a little bit first. Then you can add a little more tone on there. So I want to make it a little darker in the centers there, but it's still a little damp, so we're going to let it dry. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to set it underneath my pad here, because what happens is the water makes it start to buckle a little bit, and this will help it not buckle so much. I'm just going to move this out of the way because I do plan to come back to it to do the centers of the pumpkins. Okay, now let's work on the card front itself. I'm taking my Calypso coral and my Designer Series paper, and I'm just going to glue them together. Okay, and I'm just watching to try to make sure my margins are relatively the same all the way around. Now I'm going to take my 2 pieces of the cork. The bigger one I cut to size to 4 inches. The littler one, it was just a scrap I had, so I thought, oh, I'll keep it long and trim the edges. So let's put that little one on first. And this is actually wide enough that if I wanted, I could probably use glue dots, but I just find that using the liquid glue is just faster. And I'm putting it down toward the bottom, but not all the way at the bottom. The other thing I like about using the liquid glue instead of glue dots on there is when I first laid that down, it was a little bit crooked, but because the glue was still wet, I was able to just kind of push it and shift it with my fingers. You can't really do that with the glue dots. You'd have to take it off and hope it doesn't tear your paper. So let's trim this off. Okay, now let's put the bigger piece on. It's the regular, Kim, it's the regular basic white cardstock that I used. It would have looked really good if I had used the watercolor paper, but I didn't have any. So I just used the regular basic white. Now what I'm going to do is I want there to be about 3/4 to an inch between my 2 pieces of cork. Doesn't have to be any specific precise measurement. I just wanted that gap there. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my ribbon and I'm going to wrap it. This is kind of it's not a hard tie to do, but it's just a little different. And I learned it at a workshop I did last summer or something, where it's like I'm going to tie a knot, but I'm only doing that one time. So like with a knot, you'd tie it like this 2 times. I'm just doing the one fold like that. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to flip it over. So it's just forward like this. Try to get my ribbon where I want it. And you can adjust it afterwards too. Now I'm going to take the crumb cake twine, and I wanted a double bow. That's why I have 2 pieces of it here. And I'm just going to tie a little bow right around these 2 flaps. Or tails, I guess. Get out. I'm the boss. Okay. So I pulled these together. I'm going to tie my bow. And then once it's tied, I can adjust it to the height that I want it. Uh-oh. Uh-oh. Yeah, I pulled that too tight. Let's try that again. Oh, goodness. I told you I'm fumble fingers tonight. Okay, let's try this again, shall we? Now I'm just going to fiddle with this to get the little ears of my bow the way I want them. What is that part of the bow called? Does anybody know? I mean, I know the pieces that hang down are called the tails. I always think of ears, though, because I think of, when you're learning to tie your shoes and they're bunny ears. Okay, so now I've got my bow there. Cut my tails so that they're a length I like. Okay. Okay, now we'll leave that there. And let's work on our little tag here. Oops, let's move you over here. Put some weight on that. There we go. Okay, so what I did, and you can do this either way. You can either cut your tag out. This is the Label Me Lovely punch, and you can cut the tag out and then punch it, or you can stamp it and then center your punch that way. I've done it both ways, so it's really whatever you like. And I'm using the soft suede ink. Guess I did still need this. The stamp that I'm using is this one that says "So Thankful for You," and it is also in the Pretty Pumpkins set. Okay, then clean my stamp. And I'm going to take my punch, and I'm going to do it upside down because then I can see where I'm punching. And I've got it so it's not quite centered. I want it to be, I'm trying to center it left to right, but I wanted it to be up a little higher on the tag. Then, let's see here. The next step, we need to do a little bit of die cutting. So I guess we'll go ahead and cut our pumpkins now too. Let me grab my little cutter. Okay. You guys have seen me use my mini cutting and embossing machine before. And it just opens up like this. It's easy to do, but it does make a lot of noise. Okay, now I'm going to take this piece of the, I always want to say Sage Shadow, but I think Sage Shadow is a color we had like 15 years ago. This is Soft Succulent. And I'm using the dies from the Detailed Pumpkins dies. They go with the Pretty Pumpkins stamp set. I think you can buy them as a bundle. When you buy as a bundle, that's a great way to do it because you get a price discount if they're offered as a bundle. Yes, Robin, the loop. Why could I not think of a loop? Okay, I'm going to take this die right here that makes a leaf, and I'm going to put it on here. And I need to turn it around just because that's the hand I crank with. And when you know, a little trick, when the paper is still stuck in the die like this, all you got to do is kind of drop it on your work surface and it pops right out. Okay, then the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and cut out my pumpkins while I have my machine out. Oh, I wanted to finish those. Let's finish those leaves really quick. And I'm just putting a little bit more of the dark stuff right here in the center. When it dries, it blends in really nicely. Okay, clean off my little brush. I don't think you can see that. I'm just doing it off to the side here. But you saw how to do it before. I'm going to clean off my little block. I can't be trusted with too much ink floating around. Now, I'm going to lay this here. I am going to use a Post-it note. You could use a regular Post-it note, or I just happen to have these little Post-it tags. And I like to use them to hold my dies in place, especially when they're fairly detailed like this. I want to make sure they don't crop off the edges or whatever. Okay. That's right, Robin. I was busy being creative. I like that. I'm going to use that as my excuse for everything. Pardon me, but I was busy being creative. Okay, see, my paper wasn't quite dry yet, and it did pull off some of my pumpkin with the sticky there. We can fix that. I'm just going to take a teeny tiny bit of glue. Let's move this out of the way. Put my die away before I lose it. But I'm just going to put a teeny little drop of glue under this piece that lifted up. There. And because of that, because I used the two different colors and it's variegated a little bit, you can't even see where the paper was torn. Okay, so now we have our tag here. We have our pumpkin. Oh, and what did I do with, there it is. Ugh, my little leaf. So let's get some dimensionals here. And I'm going to put the tag, oh, how about if I get the card I'm working on, not the one that's already done. Jeez Louise, Heather. Put some dimensionals on here so it pops up a little bit. Get my take your pick tool. This is a great way to get the backs off of your dimensionals. And of course, just as I say that, one doesn't come off. Of course. Okay, so, well good, I'm glad you can't see it, Talina, because that's kind of the point. I don't want you to see my boogered up pumpkin. Okay, stuck that there kind of centered, and I hope it's straight. Get a little glue dot. Let's see if I can find where the line starts here. Okay. Now, one thing I did when I was putting this together last night, I did notice that one end kind of comes off of my tag a little bit, like this. So what I did is I took the mini dimensionals and I just put one on here. Just one for that part that's going to come off of my tag. There. And got our little pumpkins here. They're still a little wet, but that's okay. I want this to be a little more to the side because I want room for my pumpkins. And I'm going to put them on the card with dimensionals also. Now, because the paper is wet, it may sag a little bit more, so I am using extra dimensionals just to try to make sure that doesn't happen. Okay, get these backs off. Oh, you stay there. I'm the boss. Get back. Get back from whence you came. Okay. Now what I'm going to do is I get my little tails out of the way. There. Now let's stick this down to our card and then we'll put the little gems, or the little, I have the brushed metallic dots. Oh, this is kind of funny. One of my cards, we forgot to put rhinestones on, so we'll finish that in a minute. I'm going to glue this down. I probably should have glued it down before I started popping up everything on it with dimensionals. But it works still, so we're fine. Stick that down to the base of the card. Try to make sure all of my margins are relatively the same. Now, we've got our brushed metallic adhesive dots. And I kind of am a fan of these sort of bronzy, well, they're not bronze, they're more of a brushed, well, they're not really brushed nickel either. Anyway, they're kind of a darker. I tend to like these ones a lot. So And then, just to draw the eye down, we'll put one right here. Whoops. There we go. And there's our card. If you wanted to decorate the inside, what I did is I just took a piece of the basic white, a strip of the designer series paper, and a strip of the Calypso coral, and just glued these two down like this, and decorate it that way. I'm not going to keep you tonight though, because you guys have seen me do the insides of cards. You know how to do that. So that is how this card turned out. We've got our envelope here. And then let's go back to this one really quick and put our rhinestones on. I do like the rhinestones. I like sparklies. Make sure this is going the right direction. Just a few on there to decorate it. Okay, so let me clear this off and I'll show you again everything that we made tonight. I hope you guys enjoyed what you saw. If you did, thank you, Robin. If you did enjoy this tonight, I would love for you to like this video and even share it if you have some friends that you think might be interested, or even if you don't know if your friends are interested, you just never know who's out there that might enjoy it. If you are watching this as a replay later, which I do get a lot of people watching this later on either YouTube or here on Facebook Live, if you could still share it and like it, make comments, that kind of thing. Both platforms, Facebook and YouTube, like that. And what it does is it says, oh, this video is getting good attention. Let's put it up in the feed. And so it makes it so that even more people can see the video. And I would really appreciate that. That helps my business a lot. So let's see what we've got here. We've got the So Thankful for You card that we made. I think that one's my favorite. Well, I don't know. It's that between that and the pink one, but I just am so tickled with the watercolor on that one. We have our Happiest Holidays. And then our final one was the calendar that we made. And you could make this with any designer series paper that you like. So that's everything that we made tonight. What's everybody think? If anybody has any questions or anything like that, I'll give you a minute here to type them in. I know it can take some time. I'm getting lots of hearts right now. Thank you guys. I really appreciate that. If you are looking to purchase any of the supplies for the projects that I made tonight, I would really appreciate the opportunity to earn your business. And you can do that by going to my website at heathersides.stampinup.net. If your purchase is under $150, please use this host code. This is what allows me to continue to get my supplies and things like that to bring these free videos your way. But if your order is over $150, don't use the host code. You will be getting rewards from Stampin' Up, and I want to make sure that you get them. So under $150, use the code. Over $150, don't use the code. Talina says, love, love, love. Thank you so much. Kimber says, awesome. Robin loves them. Thank you guys very much. I love to see your feedback and see what you guys think. Earlier this week, I posted something on my Facebook page that said if you have a specific set or a technique or a fold that you want to learn how to do and you want me to demonstrate it, all you got to do is send me a message or post on my Facebook page or whatever. Let me know, and I would be happy to see if that's something that I can put into one of my weekly live videos. So thank you guys for joining me. I hope you have a great week, and I'll see you next Wednesday at 6 p.m. Pacific Standard Time.